All right. The United States of America, the U.S. men's national team, plays Panama today in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Nations League. Pochettino's not his first competitive game. We had that with Jamaica last fall, but his first real, I would say, game where there's pressure to win. I mean, we knew we would beat Jamaica. Let's be honest. Jamaica was kind of a disaster. Panama is much better organized, although they don't have as much talent as we do. There's still it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a game where we can just sleepwalk through this game. I think we're going to have to play really well to win. I'm here with Tac or Filippo from Tactical Manager TV, who you all know. We're also going to talk at the end of the day, at the end of the stream, a little bit about the new Pro-Rel announcement from USL. Contrary to what we thought, they actually seem to be going through with it. That's why I'm wearing my Orange County SC jersey. As a nod to USL's announcement. We'll talk a little bit about that later because that will be hopefully something that Tac and I both have talked about many times and wanted to see in American soccer. And while MLS has declined to implement it so far, USL seems to be heading in the right direction. So we're going to talk about pros and cons, what that might look like, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the perfect system, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. How are you guys doing? We have a lot of thoughts and questions here in the chat. I hope the refs keep an eye out for all the Panamanian elbows that always fly high. Yeah, I mean, it's CONCACAF. You know,
we were the last ones to throw a punch, though.
This is true. Tim Weah better keep his fists to himself today. Let's see.
Let me say one thing about Panama to add to what you said about underestimating them. I still think we will win, and we 100% should win. But the past two big tournaments that we played, let's say the Gold Cup and the Copa America, we were knocked out by Panama. The last two, we were knocked out. It was our B team in the Gold Cup, but we still got knocked out by them on penalty kicks. In Copa America, we had our A team, and they beat us at home. Whether Tim Weah punched someone, Berhalter is a crap coach, it doesn't matter. They knocked us out, right, with our best players. So, again, it's one of those opponents where we should win. But if we underestimate them at any moment, we will lose. This is a game we could lose if we underestimate them.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about this last week or in the roster, the roster video is that I think a lot of people are probably looking ahead. Will we play Mexico? Will we play Canada? And I hope the players in Poch are not looking ahead because this is the final right now, right? This game, you have to win it. It would be an absolute disgrace to lose to Panama for a third time in a row. And sure, we're missing players. Serginho Dest is not there. A-Rob is not there. Balogun, Pepe, Tillman. Those are the main ones I'd say. Johnny. We are missing quite a few players. And we're also missing depth players, right? But still, even with this team, we have more quality than Panama. We're playing at home. And Poch needs to win. Chris Peña says, hey, Pete, honestly... Yeah,
Panama is also missing Barcenas, their winger, and they're missing Armir Murillo, which might be their best player with Carrasquilla. Carrasquilla will be there, but they don't have much depth. So when they miss out on a starter, there's a massive drop-off to the next one, different from the U.S. So there are no excuses today.
No, absolutely not. And we'll talk a little bit about this. Chris Peña says, hey, Pete, honestly, I don't like Pochettino. He's just there for the money. He's not taking serious this tournament. It looks like he's just experimenting with MLS players. Definitely, we are not winning. Okay, so there are reasons to criticize Pochettino, Chris. His lack of recruitment has been a concern because not only has it been his words where he's literally said, I don't know if I want to recruit or I think we should not beg anyone. And sure, it's true, you shouldn't beg anyone to play for you. But we are Estadios Unidos. This is not Argentina, right? We don't have as much quality as Argentina where they can afford to not recruit, number one. And number two, we have a much more diverse citizen base than any country in the world. Almost every single player, including a lot of our main guys like Christian Pulisic, are eligible for multiple countries. And we're happy that guys like Pulisic and Reina chose us. But a lot of guys have not chosen us as well, right? And so I do think recruiting is important. You do want, when players have options, more often than not, they are going to go with the guys who where they feel wanted, where they feel like there's an opportunity. It doesn't mean they're not committed just because you have to talk to them. And I think that's kind of where Poch is coming from. It's like, no, if you want to play for us, you should come to me and beg to be involved. That's not how it works. Nathaniel Brown, for example, would have been amazing to have. And we said this, if something happens to A-Rob, we need to have Nathaniel Brown because we don't have a good left back backup. And we failed to recruit Nathaniel Brown. And now he's not even in the Germany roster, which thank God, but he could be by this summer if he continues to play as he's been playing. And now what are we going to have to do? We're going to probably have to play Joe Scally or somebody else at left back. So not recruiting Nathaniel Brown was a big, big miss.
Yeah. Want me to add anything to that?
If you have anything to add.
No, it's just that the US is a bit different from like Argentina, Brazil, and some countries even in Europe where um, dual nationality means a bit less. Like in the US, you can literally have a Mexican American that the player can actually be divided. And
Yeah.
then that's where it comes in, where you try to convince him why the US is a better opportunity for him rather than Mexico and many other nationalities, right? It's very different where you go like to Latin America, like Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, dual nationality is rare, very rare, right? And everyone, like culturally speaking in the country, if you are in there, you kind of want to play in that country that you're in, that you grew up in. It's very different. And I can see how Pochettino doesn't understand that. You kind of have to live here to kind of understand it, because in other countries, it doesn't really make sense. But that's where U.S. soccer has to kind of like shake up Pochettino and say, listen, we get your point, and you're right. Like, he's right about what he's saying. But this country's a bit different, okay?
Yeah,
From
we are a
where,
nation of immigrants and people with a
yes,
lot of, ties to
yeah.
countries all over the world.
So to your point, it's like, it's not Pochettino. It's not for you to go on your knees and beg Nathaniel Brown to come. It's like, hey, Nathaniel, listen, this is where I can see you playing for the national team. We'd like to have you. We'd like to have you right now. We can offer this, while Germany might not be able to offer you a starting spot anytime soon, if not ever. We'll call you up, but we're looking into having you now. Just kind of like do proper recruitment, but not beg. No one's asking him to beg. And to be honest, I don't think Berhalter ever begged any player either, but it's about recruiting. You have to approach.
Yes.
And again, U.S. soccer has to tell that to Pochettino, because I can see how he doesn't really get it. He's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to him.
Yeah. And then as far as his rosters, I mean, let's just talk about that. I mostly was fine with the roster. I don't think it was necessary to call up both Aguiman and White to begin with. And then we had all these injuries, right? Johnny pulled out and was replaced with Jack McGlynn. Personally, I thought we should have called either Paxton or Brendan Aronson. Alejandro Zendejas would have been another option, because then you can move Musa into the center. But we brought Brian Gutierrez instead, who frankly, while he's a promising young player and has started the season well in MLS for Chicago Fire, he wasn't even that impressive in January. Let's be honest, right? Even in January camp, he looked fine to good, but he wasn't even a standout there. So it does make you kind of wonder what impact he could even have. And then the other one, to replace Austin Trusty, which, to be honest, sure, you need more fullbacks, right? Because now you only have Scally and Fossey. But you also have McKennie and Weah and Musa, who can also play at fullback. Weah can play right back and left back. McKennie can play right back, left back. Musa can play right back. Was it really necessary to call in Max Arston of the Columbus Crew? In my opinion, no. We should have called in Zendejas, Aronson, and Paxton, the two.
Arston is not even a left back. That's the other thing.
No, he's not. And so we have no left backs. Joe Scally is probably going to have to play there today, unless we play in sort of a wing back formation with back three. But even then, Pulisic's not a wing back. So how this is I'm going to bring up the lineup, and we're going to talk about how this might look, some different permutations today. But here's the thing about Pochettino. He is already getting criticism, fairly so, for some of his roster selections and his lack of dual nat recruitment. He has to win this tournament. Would you say this is a must-win tournament?
Of course. I mean, we held Berhalter to that standard. Why would Pochettino not be to that?
Exactly. And sure, he's only just got here, but he is also starting off with a better player pool than Berhalter had, right? Berhalter at the beginning, we didn't have a lot of these guys, and the player pool was quite poor back then. But now Pochettino has a good player pool, and he needs to deliver, because the bare minimum for this national team, and we said this under Berhalter, it applies to Pochettino too, is to be regionally dominant, to be the number one CONCACAF top dogs, right? Especially at home, which we are for this tournament. And then after that, we expect progress at the international level at a World Cup, go to a quarterfinal. That's the bare minimum for Pochettino. And if he doesn't win this tournament, there will be hopefully serious criticism. I think the media will finally criticize him because he's not American. So the media will actually do their job for a change, and they will be very, very furious at him. But good. That is what all we've ever asked for, is to have a real media with proper pressure and proper criticism when the coach fucks up. Now, sure, they won't do it for an American coach because they're heavily biased, but they'll definitely do it for Pochettino. We already saw it after the Jamaica game.
You think so, even with all these players he's calling up? Maybe.
What do you mean?
I mean, he's called up a lot of the MLS guys, which is what the media tends to like try to overprotect, right? When they're
sure, but they won't criticize the MLS guys. They'll criticize Pochettino for not winning.
Possibly. I think they're going to lean more into like, look, the guys that he brought in, the MLS guys, a lot of them won't see the field. I don't think they'll play. I think ultimately they're going to blame the European players, which of course they're going to have fault too. Like if you lose, it's not just the coach, it's not just the players. Usually it's a mix of everything. And obviously the context of how we lose, if we lose, matters too, right? Depending on how the game goes. But I do think there will be a lot like talking about how we needed maybe more minutes for the MLS. We'll see how it goes. I'm still fairly confident that we can win this, I would say, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to talk about like the possibilities of losing.
Yeah, let's go out there to win, but let's like really take this game seriously with the focus of Panama's going to be a tough opponent, and we have to be at our best, not just win, but win in style. Albert says, can't stay for long. Who do you all think starts, and who do you all think wins, Mexico or Canada? So we're going to bring up the starting lineup in just a second here, and we're going to discuss it. Personally, I actually am backing Canada to win this. I think that Canada has a very strong lineup and a good coach. And I think it could go either way. Of course, it's 90 minutes. Anything could happen. But if I had to bet money, Canada's looking very, very strong. And so I'm delighted that to have a strong Canada in the region, because it means more competition for us, especially at a time where Mexico's player pool isn't what it used to be. But honestly, the 90 minutes, it could go either way. It's about who shows up on the day. What do you think, Tac?
Sorry, I was missing here because I got a phone call. What was the question?
No, we were just talking about who you think wins, Canada or Mexico.
Canada are definitely the favorites. It's one of those where it's 50-50. I know it's weird to say Canada is the favorite, but it's 50-50. It can go either way. It's one game. But Canada right now, they seem to be in a better moment with their coach. Like Jesse Marsh seems to have found the proper way for this team to play. And honestly, as much as Mexicans don't want to accept this, if you go player by player, Canada has better players right now than Mexico. Mm-hmm. So they are the favorites. Now, keep in mind, this game is in LA, so it will be packed with Mexican fans or Americans that are also Mexican national team fans. That's why I'm going to say 50-50. But if we just go straight up, if we're rational about it, Canada are the favorites.
Yeah. I mean, Raul Jimenez will always be a threat. This guy's performing in the Premier League at 35 years old. He's not young. That's what's so wild. Like after that head injury, it took him a few years to kind of find his form again. But he is finding it, and he will be Mexico's biggest threat, not Santi Jimenez, not anyone else.
But if you look at Mexico's lineup right now, he doesn't start for Canada. I still go with Jonathan David up top.
Sure.
The other one would be like maybe Edson Alvarez, but does he also start? He would be fighting for a starting spot. Maybe he would start there, maybe alongside Eustachio. I think Kone could come off the bench maybe. But outside of that, who from Mexico starts for Canada?
Those are the only two that have a shot.
Well, Raul doesn't even have a shot, in my opinion. Jonathan David is healthy. He's on the bench.
I think it's close, though. I mean, this guy's performing in the Premier League week in and week out. Like, that's very different than the French league. So I think it would be very close.
But Jonathan David's scoring in the Champions League, too.
True.
So
it's tough. It's a tough one, but they're both very good strikers. I think Raul will be a threat, and I think it would be very, very close. But that's really Raul. I can't even see Edson Alvarez making that starting lineup. Like, would you start Edson or Eustachio?
I can see a scenario where you go with both. I don't think it's too crazy if you go with both and you let the wingers push higher up the field. But yeah, he would essentially be battling Ismael Kone, which is also no scrub. It's a really good player right there. There are plenty of options there with Canada. So again, but this is funny because we're talking about 2 Mexican players. Everyone else were like, they're out.
It's
They're
not
not
even a
starting.
discussion. Some
Exactly.
people could argue Malagon. Does Malagon start in goal for Canada? I don't think so.
Okay, but that doesn't even matter that much. That's the goalkeeper. They're about the same level, so it
They're
doesn't
about
really
the
matter.
same level. Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
don't think
matter.
it's a big
Johan
difference.
Vasquez might get close at center back, but he still doesn't start over Cornelius and Bombito, in my opinion.
No,
So
they're both playing well in Ligue 1.
who's the right back for? Oh, Alistair Johnston. He probably starts
Alistair
in Mexico
Johnson,
too.
yeah. Playing
So
well for Celtic, very well for Celtic.
that's what I'm saying. It's literally like 2 guys that could fight for a starting spot there, and none of them you go and say they start. None of them.
No. So that should tell you everything we need to know. Adam says, why do we continue to call in MLS players? It's a great question, Adam. Look, the strikers, I don't agree with calling in both White and Agyemang. I could maybe have been okay with one as a emergency bench option, probably Agyemang, just because I think he offers a little more physically, than White. So if you really need a goal, you could put him up top and put crosses in. Sure, he's a big, tall guy, but because of Balogun was injured, Pepe was injured, and then Damian Downs, who would have been my next pick, also got injured. In the other departments, it was really just goalkeepers and Ream, right? Was there any other MLSers? Oh no, he brought in Diego Luna. See, I disagree with Diego Luna. I like Luna. I think he's a promising young player. I probably still would have brought Zendejas over Luna, or potentially one of the Aronson boys as well. But it is closer there. Luna at least had a good camp. I think, breaking his nose and then getting right back on the field and starting an assist, getting an assist really got Poch's attention. We'll see how that translates, right? What we've always seen in the past was, yeah, you looked good in January camp. Chris Mueller looked good in January camp. Jesus Ferreira looked good in January camp. A lot of guys look good in January camp.
Paul
Arriola. It doesn't translate to competitive CONCACAF games, which are a very different vibe than January camp. Costa Rica, for example, they brought a bunch of guys that had never been capped before, right? And it's a friendly, and for them, they know it's just a money-making friendly. There's not the same intensity. There's not the same pressure to win. It's a very different vibe. You get more space. You get more time. It doesn't always translate. And I don't know if Poch fully realizes that yet, but I think he'll find out that it is a very different game. Thomas Christensen usually has Panama pretty organized. Their big weakness is that they tend to go for it, even away from home. And while you can admire that, they don't really have the quality to both go for it, do an attacking lineup, keep possession and try to push forward, and also cover defensively. And so we saw this, for example, in World Cup qualifying, right? In World Cup qualifying at home in the US, they were still in with a shot. And they came at us in Orlando, and we ended up winning 4-1, largely in transition, to be honest. And so if they try to do that today, I think we have a very good shot to hit them over and over again. Where this team has struggled in the past is against bunkers, right? And that's under the Berhalter era. We haven't really seen anybody bunker yet. I don't think Jamaica really bunkered that well. Certainly not a well-organized bunker. So we'll see what Panama does.
But I wonder if with Barcenas out and Murillo out, if he will take a more cautious approach.
He hasn't in the past. That's the thing with Thomas Christensen. Our data set on him is he doesn't. He has a way he plays, and he plays that way.
Better for us in that case. The thing with this game is like the longer they hold a 0-0 draw, the worse. Because one, it starts to build pressure on the US. Like the US has to go at it. And two, I don't really like our options off the bench. I don't see really game changers off the bench for this game. Obviously, we don't know the lineup, right? We don't know the lineup yet.
We'll talk about it, yeah.
When you look at our roster, I don't see many game changers off the bench. Maybe Gio will be on the bench. I think he'll start with all the players missing now. But then you put if you start Gio, you start Pulisic, you start Weah. Sargent will probably be up top. McKennie will probably start. Tyler Adams will probably start. Who's the game changer off the bench? Like Musa's not a game changer. If he comes off the bench, he might even start at fullback. Who knows? There are no
relying on Gutierrez and Luna. That's like your game changers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'll be a game changer. They're also very young. We don't know how they're going to behave in this game if they come in. So I think like if I was Thomas Christensen in this game, I was like, guys, listen, the longer we hold a 0-0 draw in this game, the better it is for us. And also once it goes to penalty shootouts, then it's 50-50. Doesn't matter if you're more talented.
Yeah.
It's a more of a preparation mental game at this point because any professional player can hit a penalty kick. So I think there's a possibility that we'll see a different approach from Panama. I think.
That'll be interesting to see. Devonta Jones, another bad for Poch. Haji not being in the prelim hurt us. He has played and scored in a few games now. Poch needs to be talking to clubs more and less I show speed games. Yeah, I mean, again, these are fair reasons. I think both Dest and Haji could have made this roster. I mean, they both started. Both of them have multiple games under their belt. Sure, maybe it's 3 or 4 games, some as a substitute. But I think having them in the prelim roster at least would have been good so that with these injuries, both of them started on the weekend. You'd think, well, it's time to bring them both back in, even if they're not at peak form. Although Haji, that hat trick was a great hat trick.
Dude,
right?
Haji played 2 games off the bench already, and he played 2 back-to-back in 5 games, full 90 minutes, and scored a hat trick. He's definitely fine. Like, there should have been some communication with the club because Haji would have been kind of important in this camp with all the players we're missing. Dest, there is a case to be made. He did only play 1 full game so far, and again, not that high of intensity, but Haji played 2 full 90 minutes in the EFL Championship. That's a very physical league. It was a mess up from him. There should be communication there. But again,
it just feels like he doesn't seem to care that, or maybe he's thinking, "Oh, we'll win this. We won the last 3." I don't know. Like this is.
We should have lost the last one. We got Jamaica to score an own goal to help us at the last minute. We would have lost in the semis, and I mean that Jamaican team that almost beat us last time. They're worse than this Panamanian team. There's that to say too.
Yeah, they are. All right. So look. There's fair criticism of Poch, and if he doesn't win this Nations League, that criticism will go much louder, including from us, right? Let's talk about the starting lineup here, okay? Tac, we can move this around, but let me start with what I think we could see, and I don't know if we're going to see this, but Turner in goal. In the past, we've seen a quote-unquote 4-2-3-1 that really morphs into a 3.
You're missing a player there, Pete.
Who is missing?
Yeah, you got 10 total. Did Weah punch someone again? Who got a red card?
No, Weah is there. I had what's his name? Musa here.
I mean, you're missing. Oh, Musa.
This is what I think we could see. Okay. Now, here's where I'm skeptical. This could be Musa. This could also be Fossey. Let me put both up. So here's what we have seen in the past. Sort of a quote-unquote 4-2-3-1. But in reality, it was Anthony Robinson here that was bombing up the field. Sometimes down the left. Now he's not there. And then sometimes he would tuck inside and McKennie would push up. And then Pulisic would tuck inside. And then Anthony Robinson would go down the left wing. And if Pulisic would stay wide, Anthony would come inside as part of the double pivot. That's what we saw with Anthony Robinson. Now, Scally is not a attacking fullback the way that Anthony Robinson is, right? And so that, to me, creates a problem because he can't do what A-Rob did. Could potentially Musa or Fossey take that role on the other side? This becomes a back 3. If it's Fossey, he tends to bomb up the field more while Weah tucks inside for combination and McKennie stays home. Alternately, if Weah stays wide, Musa, not so much Fossey, but Musa could then tuck inside and McKennie join playing more of an attacking role with Reina and Sargent, while Pulisic does tuck inside. It would require Adams to cover for Pulisic on the left in case we lose the ball. But this is kind of what we've seen from Poch in the past. But it's difficult because it's a completely different set of circumstances now. We don't have Anthony Robinson there, so we're not really sure how Poch is going to approach this. Is he going to keep doing what he did before with different personnel? What are your thoughts here, Tac?
Everything you said is a possibility. There's also a chance, and I can't control the field, so I'm going to try to just tell you, and you try to do whatever you can. So Scally on the right back is a possibility. Bring him there. And then instead of Musa or Fossey on the left back, I could see McKennie also playing there. And a double pivot with Tyler and Tessman.
So then in this role, McKennie would basically play the A-Rob role, where he would either bomb up the left or he would tuck inside.
Yeah, what I see could happen is you push McKennie into the midfield, and the double pivot can become like 3 players there in the back: McKennie, Adams, and Tessman, right there. Reyna will stay as the 10, and Pulisic and Weah will provide the width. You do lose a bit of like crossing from the left wing because Pulisic will drive more inside rather than out like A-Rob, but I can see that being a possibility too. We will still have width on the right side, and through the left, we won't attack through the left as much. Pulisic will drive inside, combination play with Josh Sargent, Gio Reyna. I think that's another possibility.
My only concern with this is it seems really unnecessary to have Tessman, Adams, and McKennie. Not McKennie, but these two are very defensive players, right? And so maybe McKennie would be able to drift even further forward, right? Because you have this defensive double pivot.
They can cover, yeah. Like Tyler, you can have McKennie like in the defensive shape be a left back, and Adams will cover for him, but you give McKennie more freedom to push out wide on the left or push or go central. I think that is a possibility as well, because we've seen it work with Juventus, and I don't like Scally there at the left back. I'd rather just have him on the right and have him stay. And I saw the other one that you mentioned about Marlon Fossey and maybe Musa pushing high up the field. Musa doesn't really offer much going forward. Let's be real. No. He can progress the ball forward by dribbling past players there when there's a lot of space. Once the field narrows down and space gets tight in the final third and there's more pressure, he doesn't really do anything. If anything, he's very wasteful. And it sounds counterproductive to have Marlon Fossey push high up the field wide and right with Weah there, and I would not have Weah tuck inside from that. We also saw Pochettino play Weah on the left wing before. We've seen that too, where that's a possibility of maybe Weah being there, and then Pulisic will play as a 10. I don't know. Pulisic could play the right wing. I mean, he does that for Milan very well.
Or what he could do is not start Reyna and have Musa play on the right like he did against Jamaica and look more like this. And then test either if McKennie's there, then not. Then otherwise, this is McKennie and then Scally at left back and then Fossey at right back. We could see that too. Can we talk a little bit about Reyna? If you had asked me any time before this year, I would have said Reyna starts. And the reason I would have said that is because two things. Whatever was happening at his club, he always played well for the national team. Okay, so it was like, okay, he's in there. Number two, though, even though he wasn't playing much for Dortmund, when he did play in the past, as rare as it was, he usually looked pretty good, getting goals and assists, still being a threat. Now that is different because his last, I would say, 2 months, he's actually played. He's gotten a couple of starts. He's gotten some minutes off the bench, and he hasn't looked good. And it's not only that he hasn't looked good, he hasn't looked like he's even trying, right? His pressing, while his, positioning has been fine, every time he runs, it feels like he's jogging at half speed. The pressing is poor. And you could always make that argument about him in the past, but at least in the past on the ball, he looked pretty good. Now on the ball, he's not looking good at all. And it looks like he doesn't care. And so that is extremely frustrating. And before Johnny got injured, I would have said there's no way this guy should start. There's no way. The only reason now that he might is just because of Johnny's injury and because, again, we didn't bring in
A-Rob's injury too.
A-Rob's injury. And that might force someone else to play left back and make space for Gio. I think he probably starts tonight just because of the lack of options, which should tell you it's a poorly constructed roster. If you have to force a guy to play who's been in really poor form, that tells you that you've built a bad roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, also add the fact that, I mean, like I said, the longer the 0-0 draw remains in the game, the way worse it is for us, right? Some games it's not really alarming, and if it's a game against, like, let's say we're playing Mexico or Canada, the longer the 0-0 draw goes on for, it doesn't really matter. It's still a 50-50 game. I do think the longer the 0-0 goes on for in the game, it favors Panama. And in terms of that, you don't want to put Gio Reyna in the second half out of desperation because you need a goal. Let's get that lead, and then in the second half you can sub out Gio, and then you can have a Musa, which will do better work defensively, maybe help us more in transition. I think he's going to start today because Johnny got injured, A-Rob got injured. That might push McKennie to a fullback position, which removes him from the midfield, and we need goals, right? So
Yeah.
I think Gio will probably end up starting today. It's not the other thing too is I agree with you. Like you go a year ago, like he's a lock to start. I still have zero issues with him starting, even with the poor form. But he has become a player that, to me, that he's a roster lock. But if he's not starting, I don't have much of an issue at this point until he figures out his career. He could come up and shut our mouth and be like the James Rodriguez of USMNT, right? Doesn't do anything for the club.
I hope he does. We're going to need him to play well.
I think it was with Herc that I was talking this about. It's like if we went based on just club form, James would not play for Colombia in the past few years, and he has been their best player. So there's that too. And to be fair to Gio, most of the time he performs very well for the US. It's very rare to see like a stinker from Gio Reyna with the United States,
especially in Nations League. Like this seems to be his meat, right? He's played 3 Nations Leagues so far. The first Nations League, he got a goal and assist against Mexico in the final. That was in 2021. Mm-hmm. In 2023, he got a goal and an assist 2 assists against Canada in the final. And then in 2024, he got 2 assists off the bench against Jamaica in the semifinal and a goal against Mexico in the final while playing out of position. So he does seem to like this tournament. That's like where he's gotten a lot of his goal contributions for the US. But are we seeing a different Gio? That is the question. If his Dortmund form translates to this, we're going to see a shit Gio. I'm sorry. I hope not. I love Gio probably more than everybody in this chat, or I did. And on his pure talent alone, I had high hopes for this kid. But we also haven't discussed the injuries. He's had so many injuries now. I wonder, is it him not trying, or is it him being scared of another injury? Because that can happen to players, especially young players who don't have the experience. They have 3-4 big injuries, and then they're just scared to go into a challenge. They're scared of the physicality of the game. And once you do that, you're kind of toast because you can't go playing scared of an injury. You can't. You're more likely to get injured again. So I guess we'll see what happens with this lineup. Again, because A, we have not much data on Poch. B, we have all these new injuries that we haven't dealt with before. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I want to talk about one more player who absolutely is under pressure to play well, and that's Josh Sargent. Josh Sargent, I don't want to say it's his last opportunity, but it might be. If he doesn't play well in this tournament, right, and Balogun and Pepe come back, he may never get another starting opportunity again. So this is potentially Josh Sargent's last opportunity to show that he should still be in the rotation for the national team. And look, people say, and this is fair, since Qatar, he's had 4 caps for a grand total of 152 minutes. And that is true. He has a knack for getting injured right before national team camp. So he hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities. But when he hasn't looked good for the national team. Most recently against, was it Mexico? Yeah, it was against Mexico last year. He hasn't looked good. And so it's fair to wonder, is this guy a guy that can play for club, but maybe gets in his head a little bit for the national team when he has to be the guy? He needs to overcome that, because if he doesn't score or if he plays poorly, I don't know if anybody will want him even called up once Balogun and Pepe are healthy, especially if Damian Downs continues to improve as a player. This might be sort of a last opportunity for Josh Sargent. And I'll be honest, I'm nervous, Tac, because I just don't have any evidence of him playing super well for the national team. Now, you could argue Qatar, he played well. That is true. I thought he played well against Wales. He also missed a couple of chances that he probably should have done better with. So it's just hard to say. Hopefully he comes out with confidence and a real hunger and desire to play well. And it's not, I've said this before, Sargent can be a head case. At Norwich, he's the guy. It doesn't matter how bad he plays, he's going to get the next game. It feels like he's playing without pressure, right? In the sense that, like, his coach believes in him. You are the number 9. You're not really fighting anybody for a spot. And that's when he sort of shows his best self. for the national team, he knows even if he plays well in this camp, he's still fighting Pepe and Balogun for a spot in the future. And sometimes that pressure can make certain players shrink mentally. It's a mental thing with Josh Sargent, I believe. I hope that as he's grown up, he's now 25 years old, that aspect of his game has gotten stronger and that he's sort of more mentally prepared for the pressure of playing for his role, for his spot. And I hope we see a really good Josh Sargent because I like the guy. I like him. I want him to be involved in the rotation. I actually think in many ways he's a more diverse player than Ricardo Pepi in terms of his skill set. But it doesn't matter if you don't perform for the national team. It doesn't matter what you do for your club. We said the same thing about Tillman. We said the same thing about Johnny Cardoso. One of the reasons we still believe in Gio Reyna, no matter how he's playing for his club, is because of what he's done for the national team. So at the end of the day, you have to show up. Here's the problem. If Sargent is playing like shit, what do?
You maybe play a front two and just leave like Pulisic and Way up top. Go like a 4-4-2. That's probably the best option. I don't think Aguiman or Brian White are going to come in and save the day. But again, Sargent, it's not just about performing at this point, because to be fair to him, in Qatar, I thought he was fine. I thought he played more of his level, but he needs to start scoring too. You're a center forward, and I understand that you get back to like center forwards like Roberto Firmino. He didn't have to score that much to have an impact with Liverpool. He played a different function. That's not really Sargent's game. He has to score goals too, right? That's part of his game. That's what he does for Norwich. He scores a lot of goals for Norwich. So it's not just about playing well for Sargent. It's time to start scoring goals.
Yeah.
Because again, it's reaching a point where it's tiring. Obviously, it's not his last chance. He's 25, because there could be another injury crisis during the summer. And then what? You're going to call Brian White over him? Probably not. So he might get another shot, but like, at what point it's too much, right? It's too many shots. And it's reaching a point where if it almost doesn't matter what he does for Norwich, because if he sucks for the national team and he's like killing it for Norwich and Pepe and Balogun are in poor form for their clubs, we still go with Pepe or Balogun, because as much as some people hate on Balogun, but he has like 5 goals and 4 assists. He's averaging a goal contribution every like 100 minutes. And Pepe is something even better. So for the national team, they performed way better than Sargent. It's not even close. So
yeah,
it's time to start scoring. It's not just about the performance.
Yep. Hopefully Josh Sargent finally delivers. It would be the best time for him to do so. Cole says, I want to see Yao as a depth piece. Yeah, look, Yao's been playing reasonably well in Belgium. Not as good as he was last season. I think the Olympics and then the injury to start the season didn't help him, and he got a slow start. Hopefully he can pick up his form. Personally, as far as a depth piece on the wing, I would have brought Zendejas because he's playing extremely well for Club America. I know it's Liga MX, but it's probably about the same level as Belgium, to be honest. And he's been on fire, not just this season with 11 goal contributions in the first 2.5 months, but also toward the end of last year, which, yeah, you can argue it's Liga MX, but look around, right? On the wing, our depth is not great. We've got Weah and Pulisic, and that's kind of it. Sure, we have guys who can play on the wing, but I think Zendejas deserved a shot here personally. Many are saying USSF still calling the shots. It's hard to say, Zach. There's a chance that Pochettino is here for his $6 million a year and is just, not phoning it in, but just kind of doing whatever he has to do. And USSF is trying to get certain players involved. I don't know. It's really hard to say how much USSF is in bed with MLS. We know that when MLS says we're not playing in the Open Cup, even though it's required to do so to be a D1 team, US Soccer folds, right? So we know that MLS certainly has a lot of power over US Soccer, and it's very possible that US Soccer goes, we need to get some MLS players in there. I don't know for sure if that's happening, so I don't want to say, yes, that's what's happening, right? But we know there's a lot of collusion and a very unholy relationship between U.S. Soccer and MLS. So this would not surprise me at all. If they said, look, Poch, we'll give you $6 million a year. Let's try to get as many MLSers in there as we can to help promote our domestic league.
I'll say one thing. I doubt that's happening. I mean, sure, I'm not going to rule the possibility, but I doubt that's happening. If we're going to go that route, the most likely scenario is he just simply doesn't care that much. So he just brings what he thinks will just appease, or just like kind of like the bosses will like it better. and just kind of like also remember he should know the player pool very well by now. But if you don't care that much, you don't know about it very well. So you just go based on other scouting reports and recommendations from people from U.S. Soccer, their staff, and all that. And that could be a possibility. I don't think anyone's telling Pochettino what to do. I don't think that's what's going on. But there could be a sense of like maybe he doesn't care that much. But we'll see. We'll see. We do need to give the guy some benefit of the doubt. It is iffy, the roster call up, some of the ones that he did. But I'll give him some benefit of the doubt. We'll wait a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, winning and playing well will go a long way to silencing the doubters, right? If he wins both of these games, wins the Nations League, and not only wins, but wins in stuff. Like, for me, if we win both of these games and we play like we did against Jamaica with this very fluid, free, creative, attacking mindset, players interchanging positions, bamboozling the opponent. If we see more of that and we win both games, great. All the criticism of Poch won't matter that much, because even when Berhalter won, we always looked bad, right? Like, it was like skin of his teeth, boring games. Yes, you managed to win, but it was never entertaining or fun. Like, even that Jamaica game, we got so lucky that Jamaica scored that own goal in the 90th minute, right? Otherwise, we would have gone home in the semifinal. And, what a disaster that would have been. But then Gio and Haji came on to rescue us. So even under Berhalter, when we won these domestic tournaments, it was always very painful to watch. Like, you remember the Gold Cup 2021, where we still won, but every game was just like
was 1-0. Every game was
1-0. We got very lucky. Qatar missed 3 open chances in the semifinal, missed a penalty. We got very lucky, but we never looked that dominant, despite Berhalter's claims to the contrary, right? However, winning plus playing well, that resolves a lot of the criticism, and that will be sort of his shield. Tiago says, Bom te ver, Tac. Bom te ver. How do you pronounce that?
Bom te ver.
Bom te ver. Good luck. Rooting for USMNT here. Thank you, Tiago. This is an interesting one. I'm not sure what it's about.
Don't read that word. I don't know what it is.
Do you believe in blank?
Oh, Macumba is like I think it. I mean, guys, I didn't live there. I lived there for years, but I lived most of my life here in the U.S. Macumba, I think it's like some weird witchcraft in Brazil, like a curse. I could be wrong, but I think that's what Macumba is in Brazil. I think.
So that's what I feel they are doing to our boys. Why do the Brazilians care about our boys right now?
Well, I think he means like they're doing just like some weird like witchcraft of like cursing them something. I think that's what Macumba is.
Carlos Queiroz, when he was coaching South Africa, he said that one time before the game started, the federation brought a witch doctor into the dressing room, a little dance around the dressing room in order to like give them good luck, and it was some voodoo stuff, and he was just sitting there like stunned. I heard this on a podcast because his goalkeeper coach was an American Egyptian guy, and he told the story actually. So I thought that was quite wild that even in modern times, there's still a lot of suspicion around the game in certain parts of the world. Let's see. Tiago also asks, are you both expecting an easy match for the U.S.? I would not say easy. I would say winnable. Very winnable game. If we play well on both sides of the ball, then I'll say we have a high chance of winning this game. But if we sleepwalk through it, or we think this is an easy game and we're going to just be able to like destroy Panama easily the way we did Jamaica, then I think we could be in for some surprises.
It's a comfortable win. It should be a comfortable win.
It should be.
2-0 win should be it.
Jesse Negron, I really have a feeling he's putting Ream at left back. It's possible. Anything is possible right now. If he goes Ream at left back, will we see Fossey at right? No, we'll see Scally at right back. The problem is then you have 2 defensive fullbacks, and that doesn't seem to be Poch's style. I'd say more likely to start Scally at left back maybe, and then either Fossey or Musa or McKennie. It's just, again, we don't know. Like, we don't have enough data on Poch, so it'll be interesting when that lineup comes out to see what it looks like. All right, guys, so that is the game. We're going to obviously do the pregame. When are we going live for the pregame?
We'll go like 30 minutes prior, roughly 20, 30 minutes.
20, 30 minutes. So Tac and I will be there for the pregame. Obviously, the live watch-along is at Tactical Manager TV. and then the post game will be at 11 Yanks, as per the usual. People ask me, why are you not going to the game? It's in LA. It's right there. Guys, I'm here. These are the moments that we really have to cover more than anything, because this is a USMNT channel. This is where you guys expect us to be. Would I love to go to the game? Yes, I would. But I'm committed to continuing to grow the channel and being here for the games that really, really matter. Tac, prediction. I'm going to say 3-1 USA. I think we've still looked a little defensively fragile under Pochettino. And so I think Panama could score a goal. I'm going to say that we win this 3-1.
I said on the preview 2-0. I'm sticking to it. I don't think Panama will have enough to score a goal in this game. I just don't. The only way they score is if we make mistakes. It's going to be more based on our mistakes than their own merit. Of course, I can be wrong, but I'm going to go 2-0 US.
All right. So now we want to talk a little bit about USL's latest announcement, and Tac did a whole live stream on this with probably a lot more detail than we're going to get into. So if anybody wants a more in-depth sort of look at that, then go watch Tac's stream on it on YouTube. But let's talk about it. For many years, you and I have said, pretty much since the channels have existed, that America, the United States, should have promotion and relegation. For many reasons. One, it is more of a merit-based system. You don't get to buy into a system. You get to earn your way up through your play on the field. Two, stakes. Having promotion relegation creates a certain level of stakes in every single game that you do not get when you have a closed league, particularly a closed league where more than half of the league makes the playoffs and nobody gets relegated. And now USL, although we never thought they would, has voted nearly unanimously to implement promotion and relegation by 2028. It's a very exciting time in American soccer, because even though it is an imperfect form of promotion relegation, we should remind people of that, it is not a fully open system. There are still only 3 leagues, and as far as we know right now, they are closed leagues. But many people have said, when we've talked about this, it'll never happen. Promotion relegation will never happen in the United States. So stop talking about it. I've heard the amount of times I've gotten this on Twitter and on YouTube, incalculable. Now it does seem like it will happen, right? And in 3 years, I'm excited. I'm excited that the conversation is happening. I'm excited that there does seem to be a will to do it. And I think it could be a very, very good thing for American soccer. It does not mean that it is the only thing they have to do. There are a lot of other things that USL has to do to really get to capture the attention of the soccer fans in America. But it is a very good start. Tac, what are your initial thoughts?
I talked about it a bit yesterday, and then I thought more about it, and then I can have more takes now. So I'll say a few things I didn't say yet. Well, I did say yesterday, but it was a long stream, so now we can make it much shorter. One, it's not really an open system, so it is a problem with that. The good thing about it is that if they do it correctly, it'll at least prove that pro rel can be done and can be sustainable in the U.S. soccer ecosystem. That's what's important. Now, it could work also in the sense of being almost an open system, depending on what the entry point is. Like, what's the entry point for new teams? So you have Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Division 2, you can only get there by getting promoted from the 3rd division. You can only get to Division 1 by getting promoted through the 2nd division. How do you get to that 3rd division? How do you get there? Is it going to be like very cheap?
You probably buy in.
So that's a problem. I mean, it's going to be cheaper than MLS. That's good. So you get smaller investors to invest. And it is going to increase the amount of professional clubs in this country. And it's going to prove that pro rel can be sustainable. But to me, that's a big problem. If they want to do it right over the long term, you make very cheap entry points regionally. And then the regional champions play each other for 3, 4, 5 spots in the 3rd division. And then the bottom 3 go back to the regionals. So you enter very cheap in regional tournaments. That way, you can get more community-built teams with cheaper investments that move up the ranks slowly. It's a slow process. The whole thing with like the MLS shill media is they are going to push multiple narratives, and let's say Pro Rel starts, the numbers for USL are not going to magically pop. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a slow process. Pro Rel is also a slow process. The same way MLS is like 30 years old. So give the promotion relegation at least 10 years to see where it's at. Now, my main concern with it is if USL does not do it correctly and it goes wrong for some reason, that'll be the end of Pro Rel in this country. Like no one will want to try it. So it's a high risk. I applaud USL for trying it. I hope they listen to a few of the suggestions and try to make it sustainable, where you make like the regional tournaments, and the winner of those regional tournaments, they can get into the third division, make it accessible to all. Because ultimately, what me and Pete preach very often is, yes, Pro Rel is cool. It's fun to see teams go up and down, fight against relegation, save themselves, get promoted. But ultimately, what we preach is for an open system where it makes soccer accessible to all. As soon as the news came out, a friend of mine from Orlando called me. He does have a lot of money, but he's not a billionaire. He can't pour in 300 million into a franchise. He can't even put 100 million, but he can put a couple million. And immediately he called me saying, we need to start a team here in Orlando. Now the investment will be lower. We can make an academy here. We can do this. We can do that. And we can move up the ranks. That's what will happen if they make it very accessible. It's not just him. There's going to be many investors. If you make it like 100K to get in, that's no money for people trying to invest in a club. Now, 300, 400, 500 million, that's a lot. 50 million is a lot.
I think that entry price point will be very interesting. Now, here's my question. What if there's a guy who goes, I'm going to put 100 million in, and I'm going to build a 20,000 seater stadium, but I want instant access to the first division? And USL goes, well, we don't have enough state, because there is still, you have to have a 15,000 seater stadium. How many USL teams?
You mean that before it starts?
Maybe before it starts, I could see that happening.
I'm fine with that before it starts, because you're building the league, and if you suck, you'll get relegated.
Let's say a guy from Chicago goes, look, the fire are a joke in this city. I want to start a Chicago team, and I'm ready to invest, but I want instant entry to the first division. And if they say yes, it will completely destroy the concept, because now all you're doing is saying, if you have a bigger stadium and more money, you get to go instead of earn your way up. To me, it does not matter.
What they should tell them is pay the entry fee, build everything that you're saying, invest that money instead of in a franchise fee, invest that money in the club, and freaking get promoted.
Yeah.
Work your way up.
I don't think that entry fee to the third division should be more than 2 million. I think 2 million is already high.
You mean third division or like the regional?
Third division. Well, there's no regional right now. I agree with you. A regional would be way better to have. But let's say as it currently stands, the only way to get in is to buy into the third division and then try to work your way up. I don't think it should be more than 2 million of a fee. But it's also not just promotion relegation. They have to spend, right? Well, first they need to get first division status, because USL has not been granted first division status yet. I hope US Soccer grants it to them, because that would be even more collusion with MLS. If US Soccer says you can't have Division 1 status because whatever, the stadiums are not big enough, then but they're still bending the rules for MLS, because MLS doesn't have to do what's in the bylaws, which is participate in Open Cup, all your teams. And MLS is not doing that now for the second year in a row, which means they should lose their Division 1 status if you're actually following the rules. So if US Soccer applies those rules to one league but not to the other, then it will just show everybody how much collusion there is between US Soccer and MLS, and it will be a sense of monopoly. Now, what's the advantage of being labeled D1? It's an advantage because you get CCL berths, right? CONCACAF Champions League berths. You can compete in the Club World Cup. There is a pathway to real money and real competition. So they need to get that, number one. And number two, they need to spend, because promotion and relegation is great. And believe me, I will go support my local USL team, which is Orange County SC, just because I believe they're trying to do the right thing. But they're also going to have to start spending a little bit more on the product on the field, not just the stadiums, the product on the field. And that means too. Quality players, youth development, community outreach, making sure that you are a part of the community. You cannot adopt the MLS snobbery model of like, we're the only thing in town, so F you, we don't care, right? Like, I mean, we see this from MLS teams all the time. There's people, academies, soccer-loving people in their communities feel disconnected from the clubs because the clubs don't feel like they need to do anything. They're like, yeah, we're the only team in town. What are you going to do? There's no competition. And at the end of the day, now USL will bring competition. And I hope USL doesn't only stay in the small markets. I hope that, Sacramento is a big market. They could compete with San Jose Earthquakes. Absolutely. What's that team in Brooklyn? Is it Brooklyn FC?
Brooklyn FC, yeah, Tim Way invested.
That is in New York City, right? That's a big market. Orange County is not in LA, but I think actually LA could handle another USL team.
There's a Miami USL championship team. Miami.
Dallas, I think, is getting one too. So
San
good.
Antonio,
I hope they don't.
Valley.
I mean, I hope they also are in small markets like Greensboro, right? South Carolina, places like that. Knoxville, Tennessee.
Raleigh, right? They're in Raleigh.
Raleigh. I really want Milwaukee to be there. Madison, Wisconsin, like smaller markets. Des Moines, all places where you're a smaller city need to have that. And then imagine like Greensboro or Greenville, not Greensboro. Greenville, South Carolina gets promoted to the first division. What if they don't have a big enough stadium? Are they not going to be able to be in the first division?
So didn't Luton Town have that issue in the Premier League and they just kind of let it be?
Yeah, Luton Town has a 10,000-seater stadium, smaller than what USL was asking for to be in the first division. To me, I don't think it matters. If you earned your way up there, you could have a 5,000. Orange County SC has a 5,000-seater stadium. Would I like them to get a bigger stadium? Yes. Yes, I would. But here's the thing. MLS made this exception too. When they said, in order to buy in, you have to have a soccer-specific stadium. And then what did they do? They allowed New York City to play in a baseball diamond. They allowed Atlanta to play on an NFL plastic field. They allowed Seattle to do the same thing. So you don't really need to have a soccer-specific stadium, according to MLS. And they definitely bent the rules because they felt like it was worth having these teams in the league.
Which I'm okay with. They should bend the rules for both because I do think that if you try to put too many restrictions on building a professional, silly restrictions, right? The MLS teams like Seattle where they play, like it's fine, right? Yeah. These are silly rules. Of course, you don't want a first division team maybe playing in like a high school stadium. You do need to have something. There has to be some standard. But also, if a team gets promoted, they're probably going to have some decent infrastructure by then because there'll have to be investment.
Yes. Yes. And at the very least, they could maybe expand the stadium. Patrick with a great question here. Do you guys see a world where MLS and USL merge? Yes, I actually do. Here's what I think could happen. And this is just me spitballing. USL successfully implements promotion and relegation and starts to take a large market share of soccer fans in this country that want a more authentic, globally relevant league where you have to earn your way up the pyramid via your play on the field. This starts to scare MLS, who, by the way, whatever they want to tell you and whatever the MLS fanboys and the shill media wants to tell you, their numbers are struggling in terms of Apple TV. They won't tell you what they are, which tells you everything you need to know. But actually, they did say it. They did mention about 1 million people watch MLS on Apple TV. Okay. Let's break that down on a weekend. Do you know how many teams play on a weekend? That's 14 games. What's 1 million divided by 14? That means roughly on average, you're getting 70,000 viewers per game. And many teams not even close.
How much does Messi drain also?
Exactly. How much is that coming from Lionel Messi? So there is potentially a world where Apple TV, the deal's not going well, MLS is not growing, and they have to merge with USL, implement promotion relegation across the 4 leagues, and then get a bigger TV contract because USL has built something that captures a fairly large market share in the soccer world. And they see how successful promotion relegation can be. They merge it. And now you're talking about a huge ecosystem with 150 teams across 4 divisions. That TV revenue would make a lot more sense for MLS. But MLS has to then adopt, because if MLS buys USL and then destroys promotion relegation, no one's going to care anymore. They're going to be like, fuck it, I'm out. And that's something that MLS needs to keep in mind if that ever happens. But
I wonder if MLS numbers will even go lower this season, because it seems like, I mean, we don't have the actual numbers because they don't release it. And trust me, if the numbers were good, Don Garber would get a tattoo on his forehead of the TV ratings, because he brags about any single metric that he can. Like social media metric, he bragged about it, even though it was Messi carrying it. I wonder how much worse the numbers got from last year to the year prior and how it'll look this year. Because I don't know about you.
Messi mania is over.
It's over. There's no like hype. And of course, like the diehard MLS fans, they have their own storylines that they're gonna be there. But I'm not talking about those. Those are there regardless. They will always be there. And most of those go to the games. Most of them go to the games. The question is like MLS is a league that has to grow. And this year, are those numbers going down or up? Or like even stagnation is terrible for them. Even stagnation, they should be growing. I don't think it is, personally.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the viewership numbers, the ratings. That's what I'm talking about.
Even the attendance numbers are not going up. They're not. I mean, thin margins here and there, and it's mostly expansion teams, let's be honest. And if you look at like the last year, it's like, yeah, the best ever attendance, 23,000. A lot of that was inflated attendance when Messi would play in all these. Like Chicago had terrible attendance. But then when Messi would come into town, they'd fill Soldier Field. So you go, oh, wow, attendance is getting better. Is it, or are people just going to watch Messi for that
and
one
Messi
game?
skipped that game. Messi skipped that game.
And Messi wasn't even there. But so now you have one game where you get 70,000 tickets sold, and the rest of the time you're selling 12,000. That's not a true metric of your actual attendance numbers, because Messi's going to be 38 in June. This may be his last year in MLS for all we know. And he's already pulling himself out of multiple games, right? This guy is going to play less and less and less. And as the Messi mania hype dies down, it'll be interesting to see what that does to attendance. But that aside, I think we'll see what happens in the future. Moise Crisquello says, I meant the list of our top players are injured. Yes, that's true. Thank you again, Patrick. Thiago Martins, how about a Kickstarter for a U.S. soccer team? You could do that. If what Tac said, if they implemented it, where you have a regional league where there isn't really much of a buy-in, let's say it's a $30,000 buy-in, now you have a lot of small businessmen who love soccer, small businesses, companies, even wealthy individuals who would be like, yeah, I'll buy into this and start a team. That would be really fun. Tac and I might even get involved with a project like that if that was available. So yes, if you have those regional leagues that then feed, I mean, that's what they did with Wrexham, right? How cool would it be if Ryan Reynolds and Rob McEnany spent $2 million to buy into a USL team and made a documentary about their charge up the ladder to not only get to the first division, but to win Champions League and to participate in the Club World Cup? Like, how cool would that be? A Philadelphia team, Philadelphia Kickers, or whatever they would call themselves, playing against Real Madrid in the Club World Cup. Like, that is possible with an open system, right?
They paid $2 million for Wrexham.
For Wrexham. Yeah, that's what they paid for Wrexham. And now they've brought them up 2 leagues. They could be in the championship next year. How cool would that be? And everyone's getting excited because of the possibility of promotion. Buying into USL before, where there was no possibility of promotion, no one cared. And it's the same in MLS. No one gets, like, Chicago Fire should have been relegated 10 times, right? For being so shit, but there's no consequences. So no one cares. There's no consequences. You just try again next year. Now we have a world where there's consequences and rewards for what you do on the field. And that is how it should be. And yes, you could start a Kickstarter in a city to start your own team. If the entry fee is low and the barriers to entry are low, you could absolutely get 50,000 people in Knoxville, Tennessee, although Knoxville already has a team, so maybe that's a bad example. Let's say in, I don't know, Marfa, Texas. I don't know, that would be a great spot. But yeah, like literally any city could do this. You know, what about Cleveland in Ohio? Maybe Cleveland could start a team in a regional league and then build their way up if they have some investors. There are lots of rich people in America. And by rich, I don't mean billionaires. I mean millionaires who might love to be involved with something like this and want to start a soccer team. And not just that, foreign investment too. The Saudis, the Qataris, you know, other clubs, even like Manchester City. I know they already did it with New York City FC. But what if Dortmund started their own club in the United States, in USL, and used it as a way to like train their players? And they would send guys like Cole Campbell out on loan to USL, to their USL Division I team, right? The possibilities are endless when the barrier to entry is low and the possibility for growth and progress via your play on the field is limitless. And that is what we are hoping for with USL. Last one, and then we'll end the stream here because it's been a while. Big Chief Rasta, how many years before USL can really be a threat? I'm guessing you mean a threat to MLS. I think you have to give it at least 5 years from when they implement promotion relegation to see how it goes and to see how they do it. Because just implementing Pro Rel isn't going to be enough to really threaten MLS. It will expand the tent of people who can be involved with the game. But will it really threaten MLS? It depends on the spending level. It depends on the quality of the match day experience, et cetera, et cetera. That's my take.
Yeah, I would say like once they implement it, if they take the right steps, I would say like 10 years at least.
Yeah, you have to give it time.
Yeah, because I mean, MLS is so far ahead on everything, infrastructure, stadiums, money being spent, everything. So if they do everything right from the day one that they implemented, at least 10 years, and still it depends, right? There's a lot of work to be done. But I would say if we were to be very realistic, if USL does everything right, probably 20 years.
Yeah. As an example, LA County alone will be like London. Exactly. There's 9 million people in LA County, right? Do you know how many soccer teams you could actually support? Yeah, it's exciting. It's very, very exciting. But we're going to leave it here, guys. Tonight, we'll see you all at 6:30-ish, let's say, for the pregame, 6:30, 6:40 for the pregame stream. USA versus Panama. Let's go. Let's go win the Nations League. The number one team in the United States is the U.S. men's national team, and we're excited to be playing again and to hopefully go win a trophy under Poch despite our injuries. Any last thoughts, Tac?
No. See you guys tonight.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Have a great day. Let's go USA.